Welcome back to another video. I really appreciate and thank you for taking time to watch my videos. Today's topic is attachment styles. I have my notes ready. Let's get to it. But before that, if you're a person that prefers audio content over video content, if you're like, Neethika, I don't want to watch your face, I don't want to see all these hand gestures, I just want to listen to what you're saying, you can check out my Spotify. All the videos that I upload on YouTube will be uploaded on Spotify in audio format. I've given the link in description. So, attachment styles. I used to be completely ignorant of this whole attachment styles theory. And for someone like me who is so into self-development, who helps people, who creates content, that was not so professional of me. I should have been curious. I should have learnt about it, but then life put me in a situation where I had to learn it in the hard way. So that's why this video is important. Let's not be ignorant. Like I said, what we are not aware of repeats. So let's become aware of our attachment styles and see if there are any improvements that we need to make. So what is an attachment style? Attachment style is how we relate and form relationships and connections with other people. And there are 4 attachment styles: secure, anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant. And in this video, we are going to talk about all 4 attachment styles, what they are, what do they mean, what do they look like, how do they manifest in a relationship, where do they come from, and what are the signs or triggers of these attachment styles. So before we get into the episode, if you would like to know what your attachment style is, I've given a link in the description. You can take that quiz. It will take you like 5 minutes and then you will know what your attachment style is. Let's get into it. So like I said, 4 attachment styles. 1 is secure, and then the remaining 3 are insecure attachment styles. It's anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, and fearful avoidant. Let's start with secure attachment style. Securely attached people can form healthy relationships, healthy connections. They express themselves freely. Then their mind is not clouded with doubts or insecurities. People can rely on them, and they also rely on people when needed. They are emotionally available. They have strong boundaries. If they come across a toxic person, they realize that this person is toxic, they just walk away because their boundaries are so strong that they're simply not interested. They don't trick you, they don't play with you, they don't play with anyone's emotions, they don't play with their own emotions. They're very serious about who they allow into their life, who they don't allow into their life, and they are really healthy people whose ego is rooted in a very healthy manner. Securely attached people, they don't fear being alone. They thrive with or without a relationship, and they have enough self-love and enough self-validation, and they don't need anyone else's validation. They don't seek validation. They don't seek approval from other people. I know that sounds like a dream, because for our people who have insecure attachment styles, our mind is clouded with a lot of self-doubt. People do seek validation from others. We do seek love from others. And some people are not okay being alone. Some people constantly need outside approval, outside validation. We compare, we ruminate, we overthink, whatnot. I cannot even think what it would look like inside the mind of a secure person, right? Because what I just listed was, it's amazing. It's amazing to be a person like that in this world, like unbothered by anything. You just know who you are, you're authentically you, and you just do what you want to do. That's amazing. And that's the goal. That's the goal for all of us. All the other attachment styles, it's not like you're doomed to stay with those attachment styles. You can make changes. You become aware of your attachment style first, and then you notice your patterns, and then you change your behavior, and then you can change your attachment style to become a more secure person. So yes, there is a destination that we can go to. There is a good, it's not an ending, but there is a shift that can happen for all of us. And this attachment style, which is secure attachment style, is what we aim for. Becoming more secure is what we aim for. People who are already secure enjoy life. You have no idea what a privilege it is, to be a securely attached person in this world. So how does one turn out to be a securely attached person? It comes from their childhood. The primary caregiver that they had, they were close to them when they needed. and they also gave them the distance when they needed, like the love, care and affection is there, but at the same time they also let the child explore, and they also know that if they make a mistake, they're not going to be criticized or like scolded or get beatings, nothing. They had a very safe space to grow, and the relationship between the child and the primary caregiver was really healthy. The closeness was also there, the independence was also there, and it was in good balance, that the child turns out to be a securely attached person, where the child knows that I need my own freedom, I give you your freedom, but at the same time we also have our closeness. So that's a really good balance to have. That's how most of the relationships will work and should work. So secure people are very much capable naturally to form that kind of relationship, and it mostly stems from childhood, but at the same time not everything stems from childhood for everyone, because not necessarily. Majority, yes, from childhood, but not necessarily, because me and my brother, we grew up in the same household. Both of us did not have a father, both of us only had a mother, but my attachment style is fearful avoidant, while my brother's attachment style is secure. How? That's why I'm saying that not necessarily your childhood, there could be a lot of other factors contributing to your attachment style. Okay, now let's get into the insecure attachment styles. Let's start with anxious preoccupied. Anxious people are driven by fear of abandonment. That's the root cause of their anxiousness. And they also have other limiting beliefs, like they feel unworthy, they lack boundaries, and they feel like everyone will just leave them and abandon them. They have a negative view of themselves, and this fear that they have, it rules all their relationships. They tend to be very clingy with people because they're worried constantly that whoever comes into their life will abandon them. And this is the goggle you wear, right? Like when you have a fear inside you, you look at the world through that fear. Like when you wear a cooling glass, the world becomes dark, right? Because of the cooling glass, because you're looking through the glass, the world appears dark. That's the same thing, right? When you have a fear inside you, you look through that fear. So whatever people do, you will relate it with your fear. Like for example, someone is not calling you for 2 days or texting you for a few hours, you immediately start to think that, oh my god, this person doesn't love me, this person doesn't value me. Maybe you have a friend who cancels a plan at the last minute. Like you made plans to go out for coffee, but then 2-3 hours back, the person just says that, hey, I'm sorry, I've got something emergency, I cannot make it. And you immediately start to feel that, oh my god, this person doesn't love me, this person doesn't value me, this person doesn't respect me, and you become anxious and you cling to it. They try to avoid abandonment at all costs by clinging on to the person. Whatever people do will look like they are reinforcing that fear, because it's not their fault, it's because you have a fear inside you and you are trying to find actions to reinforce that fear. So this happens and you constantly think that, okay, people doesn't love me, people don't value me, this person doesn't respect me, and you try to bring it up, and then that creates problem in the relationship because that person don't know any of this. They're just being themselves. Like your friend cancelling your plan is just normal, they had an emergency. But if they cancel a plan and you are like, you don't value me, you don't respect me, that person is going to be clueless, like, I have an emergency, I just canceled the plan, what's wrong? So if you're able to relate to this, maybe you're anxiously attached, but again, take the quiz to know if you're one. So some signs of anxious attachment is rejection. You cannot take rejection. If someone rejects you, your immediate response would be that, okay, I want to prove myself, I want to prove my worth to this person. And it would have nothing to do with your worth. Maybe that person is not interested in you, but you would think that I want to prove myself. So if you're trying to prove yourself to people, if you're trying to seek their validation, it is a sign of anxious attachment, and you have a constant need for reassurance and validation. You need people to be constantly telling you that, no, I am not leaving you, I do love you, I will always be there, you can trust me, I am not devaluing you, I am not disrespecting you. So that constant need for reassurance is there. And when I say constant, It's not like the healthy kind of reassurance that happens in a relationship, but it's an very unhealthy, too much kind of relationship that puts the other person in a frustrated state. Yeah, and over analyzing, overthinking every nook and corner. There's a text message, there is a phone call, or this person uploads a story, or this person says something. You tend to find a meaning in everything. You tend to be over analyzing everything. Maybe it's a joke, or maybe they said something, and then you sit and think about it for hours and hours. So there's also overthinking and over analyzing. And then you're also overly dependent, not giving them space. Like I said, it comes from the fear of abandonment. You don't want this person to leave, so you tend to get closer and closer and closer to them. You don't want them to leave, you don't give them space. It kind of suffocates them. And you are highly vigilant of the other person's mood. You tend to constantly notice the other person. Are they happy? Are they sad? Because what mood they are in also determines your mood. So your mood is not yours, it's theirs. They are happy, you're happy. They give you reassurance, you're happy. But they tend to be silent for a bit, or they're like on their phone for a few minutes. It tends to like take your mood off, right? So that's one. And you also have trust issues. You have difficulty trusting people. And finally, you have really high anxiety during conflicts, and you just want to talk about it at that moment. You don't want to kind of prolong or give it some time and then talk about it. No, you want to talk about it at the moment, and you want to finish it at the moment. You want the conflict to end. You do want to have the conflict, but you want the conflict to end immediately. You want to talk and sort it out immediately. These are some of the signs of anxiously attached people. And how does anxious attachment form? From childhood, where you had an unpredictable or inconsistent caregiver. If your caregiver was unreliable, they were available sometimes, but they were not available sometimes, and you don't even know what they were doing or where they are, and you don't know when they'll be back, and you tend to kind of wait for their love. So if that was the pattern, or that was the kind of attention and validation and love you received growing up, tends to form anxious attachment style. Second, dismissive avoidant. Now, dismissive avoidant is considered to be the cool attachment style, because if you're anxiously attached and there is a problem with the people, your friends or relationships, you will be in pain. You will suffer. There will be pain. If you're a fearful avoidant, same. You will be in pain. You will feel the pain. But if you're a dismissive avoidant, you don't feel pain because you can't even feel emotions. You are not in touch with your emotions. So for you, it's like, oh, something is uncomfortable. I'm going to shut off. I'm going to run away, and I'm going to do something else that will just lift up my mood, or something else where I can be distracted for a while, and then that distraction just like brings you back to your normal stoic state, and then you go back to your life. And people tend to hate dismissive avoidance. If you have seen videos about dismissive avoidance, or if you've seen the kind of comments that dismissive avoidant people get, it's funny, but again, it is an attachment style. Although it is cool, it is an insecure attachment style. It also stems from a fear, which we will talk about, and it will also not help you in forming a healthy relationship. Okay, so dismissive avoidant people are driven by the fear of engulfment and the fear of not being enough. They don't want to depend on anyone, and they also don't want anyone to depend on them. They are not in touch with their own feelings, and they will also neglect or ignore your feelings. So for them, they are hyper independent, and their independence is really important to them. So if there's a relationship or if there's a friendship, they would be worried that their independence will be gone. So they don't get too close with people, and even if they do, if they slightly notice that their independence is going away, they are expected to spend time here, they would pull away, and they would just shut off. They will not talk about it. Like I said, they would just go away and do something else, and then clear their head, take their space. They need space, so they take their space. They come back to their normal state of, okay, nobody is controlling me, my independence is mine, I'm free. and that is the antidote that they need. And then they have this deep fear of commitment. That's another fear of theirs. They absolutely scare commitment, and they dismiss a partner's need because they're not in touch with their own emotions. They cannot hold space for someone else's emotions as well, so they tend to dismiss your emotions and your feelings anytime you bring them up. And they are also people who tend to who tend to hustle. They tend to bury themselves in work because that's where they get their validation from, because they, like I said, they have this fear of not being enough, and by working and achieving, and maybe by making a lot of money, or maybe by achieving success, that is their way of feeling enough. And then they tend to hustle a lot to prove to themselves that they are worthy, and they tend to sort of put themselves in work a lot. So work usually comes first for them, and they tend to avoid conflict. This is another major sign of a dismissive avoidant. They tend to avoid conflict because they cannot confront the feelings of another person, because when you have a conflict or an argument, the other person will bring up their feelings. They talk about their emotions, they talk about what's bothering them, and they also talk about how you can make changes for this relationship to work. That is too much for this person, that is too much, so they tend to avoid conflicts. They are completely afraid of conflicts. And another reason, because they think that anytime someone brings up a conflict or someone brings up an issue, this triggers their fear of not being enough. So they tend to think that, okay, this person is complaining or blaming me, and that is probably because I'm not enough, probably because I'm not doing enough. And then that fear is triggered, and then they tend to again pull away. So they try to avoid conflict. And more or less, the core beliefs of a dismissive avoidant is that I cannot rely on anyone. I cannot let anyone rely on me. My independence is really important to me. My freedom is really important to me, and I will not hold space for anyone who threatens it. And I will not get in touch with my feelings. Like getting in touch with your feelings is a weakness. Feeling emotions itself is a weakness, and I am not going to hold space for someone else's feelings as well. So this is how a dismissive avoidant partner would look like. And where does this dismissive avoidant attachment style comes from? Their childhood, where their primary caregiver would have been like this. Maybe they grew up seeing someone like this who was not in touch with their emotions, who never showed any of their emotions, who never expressed anything. Or maybe they did express something, like the child expressed something, but the caregiver would have insulted them or scolded them or punished them for expressing emotions. So a various number of reasons due to which this would have formed. That's dismissive avoidant. And now we go to the last attachment style, that is fearful avoidant. I am a fearful avoidant. You know how frustrating it is, or how scary it is when you listen to an anxious attachment style or dismissive avoidant attachment style, and then you realize that, oh my god, this is me. This is like exactly my behavior. And then you realize that, okay, this is why this was happening, this is why I was acting this way, this is why it is like this is why I tend to cling to people, this is why I tend to avoid conflict. You know how difficult it is when you realize all of this? Fearful avoidant is a mix of anxious and avoidant attachment styles. Yeah. And apparently only 2% of the world population is fearfully attached, like they have fearful avoidant attachment style. You know, when I first took the quiz and I realized that I am a fearful avoidant, and I also came to know about the fact that 2% among 8 billion people have this attachment style, I was literally telling God, like, why? Like, why? I am not your strongest warrior. You keep giving me these battles. This one, why? I know I'm special. I know I am an exception, but everywhere like this, I was literally having this conversation with God. But jokes apart, it was really, really frustrating when I got to know about this, and I saw the signs of a fearful avoidant person, and then it was completely matching what I was doing in my relationships, and it was kind of sad. But then, it's the first step towards change is awareness, so take it positively. So like I said, A fearful avoidant is a mix of anxious and avoidant attachment styles. So depending on the circumstance, how you act, your behavior changes. Either you tend to show some anxious behavior or you tend to show some avoidant behavior. And you also tend to show confusing behaviors, like one time you are really loving and really kind and really compassionate, and the other time you are being completely cold and distant and you don't want to talk to them. And usually these are very extremes, right? There's no balance. These are very extremes and it could be confusing to people. Fearful avoidants want closeness, but at the same time they are afraid of closeness. Like they want a relationship like an anxious person, but they're also terrified of relationships like an avoidant person. They are driven by the fear of getting hurt, along with all the other fears that comes with anxious attachment and avoidant attachment, like the fear of abandonment, the fear of being engulfed, the fear of not feeling enough, all of these fears. To give you an example, let's say you're talking to someone, you guys get really close, and you're being all loving and nice and everything is going good, and then something happens, like something really small, insignificant, like not talking for 2 days or cancelling plans in the last minute or something really small that is not that big of a reason for you to kind of end the relationship. But the moment you notice that that person could hurt you, that person has this power in them to hurt you, and you do feel pain, even if it's over a very small thing, you tend to sort of end it. You tend to sort of pull away, shut off, and you also tend to show both the behaviors of both attachment styles, like anxious and avoidant. You are anxious, maybe you're putting up fights, there's conflict, there are things that you tell them, you over explain, you do all of that like an anxious person, and at the same time you also, once you've done that, you also pull away like an avoidant person, like okay, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to continue this, and I'm gonna shut off and just go away. So some of the signs of fearful avoidance, like I said, there is this push and pull dynamic. They have these extremes. Sometimes they're extremely loving, extremely caring, compassionate, and the other time they're extremely cold and extremely distant. So the extremes you can see, and then all the other signs of the other two attachment styles, like trust issues, avoiding conflicts and all of that. And how does one form fearful avoidant attachment style? Through childhood, where the primary caregiver was the source of safety, but at the same time they were also the source of fear, like you're really scared, and it was unpredictable, like they would be loving, but sometimes they can be really scary. So you found safety in them, but at the same time sometimes they did not provide that safety. So there was this extremes, there was both the sides, due to which this attachment style forms. So those are the 4 attachment styles. And is there a possibility where an insecure attachment style person can go to a secure attachment style? Yes, there is. And how do we do that? First, we become aware of it. First, we find what our attachment style is, and then see how it is manifesting in our relationships. What are the kind of behavior patterns that we are following? What are we doing? And then we change it. It's a simple process, but not easy. It's not easy to do, because acting out of that, your natural attachment style, is what you are conditioned, right? That would be your default response. That is like your autopilot. But going forward, what you have to do is, anytime you are going to act out of your attachment style, you have to notice it immediately, stop it, and then act better. So that's not an easy process to do, but it is possible. Through practice, by overriding our thoughts and fears and beliefs again and again with these better beliefs, we can go from insecure to secure attachment styles. That's what we are aiming. And yes, I will make more videos about these attachment styles. We have only covered like what is the attachment style and what does it look like and how does it manifest. That's it. So we'll talk more about these in upcoming videos in detail, and I will also make videos on how we can slowly move from these attachment styles to a secure person. I am on that journey as well, and let's take that journey together. So that's it for the video. That's it for today's episode. If you have any questions, queries or concerns, please leave it in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.